Genies before?
No, never. I wouldn't, for I killed my mother, because I had no reason to. And then I think we had 1 or 2 nominations for Heartbeats, but I was shooting.
Well, you had trouble the funding bodies weren't kind to you for I Killed My Mother, right?
Yeah, I can tell you about that if you want.
Yeah.
But it's are you filming right now? Has it started? Has it started? No? Yes?
Has it?
I don't know. I don't know. You should tell me.
Let's just go forward assuming
I'm going to be like super different. I'm going to change and become someone else. No, I'm not. But no, the funding was uneasy with I Killed My Mother because I had not directed anything before and they didn't know me and I assume that's logical that they would not finance a movie up to like $2 million. No, it was 2.4 the first budget, which is way too high for such a little film. And they didn't know me, and but they also didn't think the script was good. Nobody did, to be frank.
But nothing changed when it got made, right? Like in the script?
No.
So then other people thought it was good?
Yeah, actors and what do you mean afterwards or when they were actors left the script and people around me, and then when I was wondering if they were just being nice, but I also thought that it was a matter of seeing it, and I knew what I wanted very precisely, and I explained my vision to the funding agencies, but. And it was a nice pitch. It was a nice conversation, like 5 or 6 or 7 people around the table, and all, they're asking questions and you're giving answers and you're trying to sell whatever film you're defending. It was anyway.
But then once it gets into Cannes, the tune changes.
Telefilm felt bad, I think. I was not, I decided not to play that sort of asshole thing and be like, well, guess who's in Cannes now? I thought it was just, they read tons and tons of scripts and they don't have money, literally no money. And they have to make safe bets. So I not resent anything or anyone for that.
It's interesting though that during that film you're writing, or you have the idea for Laurence.
Yeah.
And it must have seemed like the budget for that would have been much larger because of it's a period piece. So
what is your question exactly?
I didn't get to it.
I'm sorry.
So you're making a film where it's your first film. You're having some difficulty getting some funding for it. Meanwhile, you've also got this idea germinating for something that's much more ambitious.
Well, I had to be honest. I had the idea for Laurence when we were already shooting I Killed My Mother. So I did have the fund. Well, it was not. It was no state funds. It was my own money actually, and some love money that I had gathered from my father, my family, people I had worked with in the industry of dubbing dubbing movies. I've been dubbing movies forever since I've been. Like,
you do the dubbing, like
yeah,
vocally,
as an actor
yeah.
voice. Like I'm the French voice of a lot of actors since I'm 8, and so I had some money from that, and I worked with people from that industry, and they one of my friends, who's Michelle Pfeiffer's voice, I think, yeah, called everybody and said he's making his first film. Could you throw in some cash, just a little something, just to, and I gathered like this, 25 grand.
Whose voice were you?
Whose voice am I?
What's the hit list?
Well, Taylor Lautner in all of his films. Rupert Grint in Harry Potter.
Do you tell people you were a part of Harry Potter?
I don't usually introduce myself. I am Xavier Dolan's Rupert Grint's voice in Harry Potter. But yeah, when people ask, I'm actually proud of it. It's a lot of fun to be dubbing. It's a great way to keep up with acting when no one's employing you. Sad face. Yeah, it's. I'm not saying this in any sort of bitter way, but it was the only contact I had with acting for many years.
So you're working on Laurence at that point. What was the approach that you were taking to the subject matter? Like, one question that always comes up to me when I think about films like this is kind of how you deal with representation when you're kind of writing for a character that's so different than your own experience. Like, what challenges come with that?
Challenges.
Or opportunities?
Well, you mean, how would I do how would I do research, or how would I write a character like Laurence when I had very little to do with him? Okay. Well, there's always things you can relate to in people. Laurence is different, and I always felt different. Not that different, not like, but just a little different. So that is something you can hold on to and try to understand, when people look at you, when people ask you too many questions, or when they're being, intrusive. There are a couple of things that we had in common. And then the rest is, using your imagination and seeking your friend's advice and counsel, and listening to them, whether they're, when they're saying that, this is bad, or this is wrong, or this is, and then just trying to do things honestly. It's not that hard to imagine what it would be like for a man who's a teacher and who's very much in love with his girlfriend, boyfriend. I basically relied on my very, very close friendship with girlfriends to imagine what you don't have to. It's stupid. You don't have to be heterosexual to understand what a heterosexual relationship is like. It's So yeah, I based myself on those friendships that I had with girlfriends. Well, you know what I'm saying, fag hags. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yes, well, they're fag hags. Let's call people what they are. Yeah, we have these moments, and we have this intimacy, and we've when they come home, they always sleep with me, although we do not have sex. So I could imagine what it, it's not unimaginable for me to like, oh, this character is heterosexual. I don't think I can write that script. I'm going to need someone else. And seeing things for older people in a script, they just have an entire life behind them, life full of experiences and surprises and bliss and sad moments, and you just have to try to. Thank you. Just have to try to imagine what it's like. Does that answer your question, or is it like confused?
No, it makes sense, but it made me think of something that stood out to me about the Laurence character, is that he's a teacher, and that seemed like it was significant. You mentioned it like right off the bat. I'm wondering what that position meant for that character. Like teaching French literature, right? Like Céline and Flaubert.
Well, I wanted him to be in the arts without being annoying, so he couldn't be a painter. Sorry. No, actually. But I wanted him to be in an environment that's pretty, in a public environment, public function environment. So when you teach in Cégep in Quebec, you are, well, it can be private, but normally you are ruled by state. So I wanted him to be in that environment, and I wanted him to be with perhaps more conventional people in order to eventually, so that his choices would collide with their values and their beliefs at some point. And so that was the teacher thing. But then teaching French and literature, and it's just, I don't know.
There's an interesting relationship in the
Could have been Baker, but it would have been a different story.
Romer. But there's an interesting relationship with the students at the start, where it seems like with the way the shots are constructed that maybe there's going to be some relationship with one of the students, or he's being looked at as a teacher. The teacher performs.
There's this role model thing that becomes quite ironic or ironical. I don't remember which exists and which doesn't. It's for me there was this thing where he's supposed to be a role model, and at some point, and I wanted him to be in relation with the younger, with younger people, because when he comes in, the first day he comes in dressed as a woman, like the kids are so about the assignment, they don't really care, and I guess that was important for me, to feel that there was, I didn't want him to go to school and then immediately I wanted there to be a sort of takeoff that was quite nice and calm and as if everything would actually work out, and finally it doesn't.
How did you come across the kind of interview structure for the entire story?
It was, well, first of all, a lot of these interviews have been recorded afterwards. When I edited the film, I realized, but I knew that this would probably come in handy. I knew that the sort of the second or double narrative or whatever, the envelope around the film would probably provide people with information that we would be lacking, or if I wanted to cut scenes and for people to still understand, then I could, mention them in the interviews and the voiceover. So there was this aspect, but it was not only accessory. It was not only about making the movie work. I wanted to have a double narrative because I love double narratives. Hearing someone's voice is like someone taking your hand all through the film. It's a long film. You need to tell the people the movie is progressing. You're moving on. You are getting closer and closer to the end. So having that voice was a way of giving structure to the story, but a way of making sure the public is still watching, listening. And then at the end, when you finally see her face, you can't help but tell yourself, we're minutes away now. It's the end. So there's this excitement too, I think. But maybe I'm the only one.
But it's a character that's kind of judgmental, or at least so the audience is identifying to some degree with.
Yeah, there's this too. It's a sort of I think that a lot of people can watch this film with some preconceived ideas at first, and I'm not pretending like we are subverting these preconceived ideas by the end of the movie. This is not. I wish we can do that, but I think that a lot of people watch the film and by the end are like, oh well, okay, and because there are a lot of characters that don't like this transformation and that don't like Laurence, and you can identify to Laurence or to Fred, but there will always be people to. That is why there are so many characters, because it was necessary for such a long film to get to know people through their friends and their families, and to also have a very, very have a variety of standing points. People, yes-sayers, people who are against it, people who are neutral, people who are dubious, people who are. It was important for me to have a large. I'm not going to use that word. It's too risky. I don't know what it means.
No, take it. Take the risk.
No, no. A large spectrum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a cross section, you could say, like when they're cutting a tree or something.
Yeah. Of different opinions.
So, in this film, there's the kind of the theme that you introduce immediately of being looked at.
I just want people to know that I'm wearing this because it's not a stupid accessory. It's because it's cold here. So it's not some sort of fashion statement or whatever.
We'll have something running at the bottom and explain it. So you have this motif of being looked at and looking at other people that I think is kind of introduced in Heartbeats in a way. There are characters that dress to be looked at. The camera, the slow motion, the moving behind kind of represents people as images.
I'm pretty sure not a lot of people understood that there was a sort of, that I was being a little judgmental towards characters in pretty much all of my films. A lot of people think that what they see is what they, they don't understand that I'm making fun of these hipsters as much as I love them, but I'm also making fun of them. And people see me on screen and they're like, this is who he is. So and so that's anyway. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's an honest feeling though, like to kind of know that you're going to be looked at in some capacity, and it's something that becomes, I think, a little stronger in Laurence. Like the beginning with all the shots looking straight into the camera, kind of a surveillance.
Well, in Laurence, there's a very strong sense of looking and seeing. He's under some sort of watch constantly. We wanted to have this sort of heaviness, this sort of surveillance feeling or sensation to the movie. It was important, I think, for people to people looking directly to the camera or looking directly to the public, to the audience. So it was a way of returning the insistent looking to people who may have, either been a victim of this or people who looked at other people too insistently or in a too judgmental way before. It was a way of returning them this behavior and this indiscretion.
Is that why the film there are some shots that are like the opposite, where the action is happening far away from where the camera is located?
Yeah, I didn't really want to have medium shots in Laurence. I really wanted to be rather very close or very far. I don't know why. There's no reason.
It looks good.
Thank you.
A lot of tracking away too. Do you feel like people have maybe pigeonholed too much on the slow-mo, or is it something you don't care about? Like you're just gonna...
I love slow-mo, and I see really no reason of labeling slow-mo, of deciding that slow-mo is no one has the monopoly of such a. It's such an easy thing to do. When you don't shoot in normal speed, you shoot in high speed or in low speed. There are 3 options out there. So, and then it does not belong to any genre or to any aesthetic school of thought. Slow-mo is just whenever you feel it, you do it. And I don't regret the way I used it in Heartbeats, and I don't regret the way I used it in Laurence Anyways. It's especially in Laurence Anyways, I feel like there is no, maybe once or twice, but there are not a lot of moments where I'm like, slow-mo here was useless. There are a lot of flaws in this film, a lot of things that I know that I could have done differently, but slow-mo is not one of them.
What do you think is a flaw in Laurence?
Shouldn't have said that.
Do you mean like script, or do you mean like in the shooting, or?
No, in the shooting. I I don't know. I'm really, really proud of this film. It's my by far the one that I can watch without throwing up. So I not throw up actually when I watch my films, but when I watch I Killed My Mother, it's sort of very hard for me. Heartbeats is okay, but it's long. You know, for me, Heartbeats is twice as long as Laurence.
Yeah.
Even though it's in length, it's running like half the length. You know, it's just a matter of how you receive a film and how you feel and how you know when you watch it, what impression you're on. When I'm watching Heartbeats, for me, it's endless. Every scene should end sooner. Every attempt at trying stuff is 50% of the time a failure. And in Laurence, for me, I'm getting closer to what I want to do and the way I want to say things and show them, and the way I want to film people. I also think that there is not only one way to film people, and that I'm not getting closer to a signature or to an approach, because I really want to give every script what it deserves in terms of filmmaking. I don't think that, I don't want to be one filmmaker. I don't want people to be like, oh yeah, that's so like him. There are things that I love, like I love people yelling at each other, obviously. Not at each other, actually. I really love people yelling at someone. But these are, you can have that in so many different scripts and film it in so many different ways. Sorry, I just took off on some thought.
But it's interesting. You're looking at the script of Laurence generally, and you say you have an idea of how each script should be shot. What were you thinking for Laurence, like when you're approaching shooting it? What kind of ideas did you have for how it would look? When did 4:3 come in as kind of the framing?
Oh, since the very beginning, because when I was color timing Heartbeats, when we were in color timing, at one point she was the color artist, the color timer, was working on the full frame, and I was like, huh, what's that? And she was like, well, it's your full frame, dumb ass. And I said, I love it. We should use it. We should use it that way. But there were, all the mics and so it didn't work. And I said, next time I want to do this. And then I saw Fish Tank, and I was like, ee. And I thought it was a very good use of. I think the first thing I felt before, giving any sort of theoretical explanation or academic explanation, the first one is sentimental and emotional, is what I felt when I saw the full frame of Heartbeats. I felt like the story was more intimate, immediately, more intimate. I don't know why. It felt like it was some sort of family memories filmed at Christmas. It spontaneously felt more touching and more suffocating too, and Laurence was a good opportunity to try to prove that, I think.
And it's symmetrical too, like a lot of the compositions are more symmetrical.
I'm crazy with that shit. I don't like things to be, I don't like when it's not symmetrical. I'm a pain in the ass. Like, we can spend so much time on a set making things like, oh no, that's too much, wait.
Is that why that's part of the story? Like going through and adjusting, like moving everything slightly and then recording it?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Where they move Fred's husband's...
No, I have this friend who's very... well, he loves things to be at their place and really, it's like very weird. And at one point he was working in Europe, and I had no apartment. I was staying in his place, and me and Suzanne, who's actually Fred in the film, Suzanne came over for dinner, and then she misplaced something, and I said, no, you really have to put it back. And she was like, oh my God, why? Crazy? And I said, I don't know, it's just the way he likes it to be. And then we're like, okay, let's see how accurate this is in his mind, how much attention he will pay to these details. So we misplaced very slightly different objects, like books and stuff. And he came in the afternoon, he called me and he was laughing. I noticed everything. It was like, ooh, you're really crazy. Now everybody knows it. But anyway, I love that person. So yeah, we just transferred that to the script because I thought it was funny.
What was your relationship with Suzanne on the film? Like, what kind of director are you with actors, being someone who acts yourself?
Very, as for any departments, I think very controlling, very, I think, I would love to be very precise. I think I am. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, though. But Suzanne is someone with whom I really love to work, and all of her suggestions make sense. Also, she's a real actress who will throw herself in the deepest states of deepest chasms of creation, and so she'll reach a state, and sometimes you wonder if it's fake, because I don't have the ability to do that, to completely forget about what's going on, but she has this capacity of completely losing herself in a scene, and at a point where she's going to become very vulnerable. So if you talk to her, she's like, "What?" Because she's in this scene, and you're like, "It's okay. I would like to do this scene on my own." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. Let's try one take on your own." And then she'll come back and just say, "Sorry, I was really," and I'm like, "It's fine." And then she'll say things like, very frankly, like, she has to do this? Is she some sort of suburban idiot housewife somewhere? Did she has to dress that way? This is ugly. I'm going to look fat, and it's not only about looking fat. This is ugly, and it's not good for you. And I'm like, okay, well, and then I'm going to leave, and I'm going to, we're going to pretend we're angry at each other, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to say you were right. And I'm like, you're going to be what? You were right. What? And anyway, so we always end up agreeing, because I think that whatever she says goes in the direction of whatever I want to say in film, and so it's never free, or it's never. Well, I guess that's not a problem, but so she's never selfish in her comments or in her questions, or. And she's also willing to do everything you want her to do. And she's very creative. She's good with she's good with improv. She's going to, respond. And I talk during scenes constantly. Do this with your chin. Do that. This is what I was talking about when I said that sometimes she would be distracted and not understand what was going on. But most of the time, she's very quick on responding to these notes that are given during the scene and not afterwards, because we don't have a lot of time. But also, it's not about time and about combining things. It's also that sometimes you see a scene and it's perfect, and it's just lacking the tiniest little thing, and you don't want to, risk that they're going to do it another take differently. You want it now, so you just say, "Do this," and then they do it, and then it's exactly, it's as good as it can get. Well, according to you. Yeah. Sorry.
How much improv is there? It doesn't seem like
not
a film.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything is scripted, and not every actor is comfortable, or, to be honest, talented, and really is comfortable to do improv, and talented to do so. So it's a matter of with whom you're, who is in the scene, and who is interacting with who. Then it can, happen, or it cannot. There's not a lot of improv. I'll be behind the camera and I'll say, "Do this and this and this and this," and the way they respond spontaneously to what I ask is it's not improv, but it's not scripted. Suzanne will often add things of her own that I like, that are good. Monia will do this too. Monia Chakri. But it's not something that I have with a lot of people. It's not something that I will. Well, I don't want to say allow, because I'm not an asshole, but sometimes you don't want to waste any time, and you're on a very tight schedule, and you just want to do the scene with no further. Useless ticks or superfluous lines or whatever.
Was it tight on Laurence? Because like you have by far your biggest budget, and
we had a lot of time. We had like 60 days, which was insane.
Yeah.
But again, still, we lacked some time, during we cut a lot of scenes. We can you believe it? It was not always easy. We had to, and when you have such a big crew, going into overtime is a nightmare for producers. It's just insanely expensive. We were at some point we were 80 on set. So that's basically, every minute is worth something like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's just insanely expensive to do overtime. So I was sometimes really stressed, and I guess this has nothing unique though. It's pretty common.
Yeah, well, is it new for you at that point, like that?
Well, it's not common for Bryan Singer because he's got a lot of money to do his films. I love Bryan Singer.
What's your favorite Bryan Singer film? First question. Second question.
Usual. Yeah. Suspects.
Yeah. And going back to Laurence. What was the editing process like? It's a film that everyone likes to remark upon how long it is. I don't think it feels that long, but how much were you cutting, and did that mean that the script was much longer, or was that just stuff you were doing on the fly?
Well, first of all, if this would have been an American film with, I don't know, let's say Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, not referring to any movie in
No,
particular.
not at all. What are you talking about? You're being rude, and I'm taking these two because I'm taking people that are famous, people that will draw attention to such a film, actors that will secure success somehow. The market of the United States is the entire world, and for the past 2 years, you've been seeing, the average length for an American movie is somewhere between 2 hours and 15 minutes and 2 hours and 25 minutes, which is incredibly long. Most of those films are action movies or genre movies, which I guess excuse this length because there are big balls films, like The Dark Knight or things like this. But it doesn't mean that there are no dead beats in these films, and they should not be the only films entitled to such a length. And I think that more and more, a lot of long movies, long and technically, not psychologically or artistically, long on paper, are coming from the USA. So starting from there, should Laurence have been an American film, people would have not talked about it that much. Then there's my age. So apparently it's very pretentious at such a young age to believe that you can entertain people for more than 2 hours. And then there's the fact that it's not American and that it's on a transsexual. So people are like, ooh, that's like a tranny film that spans a decade, and that's 2 hours and 35 minutes. Maybe next time. So it's, but for me, there is no way this movie could have been shorter, because it was necessary to get to know characters so that they would say things and do things in the first 15, 20, 40 minutes, and then do these things and say these things again 2 hours later, and that it would feel to the audience that it's like 20 years later. And that, not a trick, but that impression is the inciting sensation to emotion, I guess.
Yeah.
And nostalgia, and people are like, these people, you've built a memory for the public. You've built, you've made them some memories. You've made them some things they know, and they think they're the guardians sort of secret diary or whatever. And they're like, well, we know these characters. And then when they hear these things, they have the impression that they're emotionally involved. You can't do that in an hour and 40 minutes. It's ludicrous, and it's twice as long. So you might as well sit down and do it properly. You want to spend a decade? If you do it in 2 hours, it's going to be a skit movie, and it's going to be very annoying, and I'm not going to see it. All right. So anyway, yeah, we could have lied. We could have lied about that night. We could have said, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, and just for fun, and then do a sort of test, and just for fun. And I'd be curious to know. We actually did, to be frank. We did focus groups at the very beginning of the film, and did not say when the movie would end. And we took the watches from people. We took watches away from people and said, we don't want you to look at your cell phone. We don't want you to look at your watch. You're allowed to tell us if you ever wanted to, but not today. This whole mediatic frenzy, it's impossible not to want to look at your watch or your Facebook every 1 minute. Let me look at mine. But yeah, so, and then we asked the question, how long is this movie? How long do you think this movie is? And some people answered 2 hours, and 2 hours, 10 minutes, or 2 hours, 20 minutes. Someone answered 1 hour and 50 minutes. And I'm like, wow, you really have no judgment at all.
Maybe they fell asleep.
Yes, thank you for shedding light on. And back then, the movie was 2 hours and 50 minutes.
What got cut?
Wigs and boobs? I don't know what was cut. So many things. 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, the first cut was like 3 hours and 15 minutes. And we were all crying, thinking, what are we going to do? A mini-series on HBO? We were nervous, but I shot in 2 blocks. So after the first block, I edited the first part, and I was able to look at a movie quite precisely, thinking, we put some slates and holes to see what would be the and then it was something like 3 hours and 25 minutes, and we were like, this is impossible. So shooting in 2 halves allowed me to create a sense of balance, and to the best of my knowledge and capacity, create a sense of balance by cutting already things that were going to be shot, thinking we don't need these anymore. What we do need and what we don't have in the first half is this. I talked to actors also to tell them, so this is the impression that I'm under about your character when I watch the first half, and you're not. You ought to go further in that direction and less in that one, because right now I don't want to be too precise about that, because that's really intimate and that's their own. I think it's really not elegant to talk about editing and actors, because it really belongs to the secrets of the editing journey. Not to mention who was excellent and who was. Editing is a magical thing. It's where the magic happens. So it's a make-believe, even for the best actors in the world. So, but yes, before the second half, I had to have some conversations with actors and tell them, okay, this is where we're going. I think this is where the movie is going. Let's go where the movie's going. Did that sound weird?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So
I'm done.
There's a kind of a compulsion in your films to have artists, or at least people with taste. I'm curious behind that impulse as a writer, what draws you to those types of characters?
You mean to have characters that are artists,
or just have taste? They're kind of.
I don't know that I would love to tell a story about someone who has absolutely no taste at all. But I may like that. But I don't. I'm not obsessed with, like Laurence, for me, by the way, Laurence and Fred, are not like, they don't have like the best tastes in terms of music or fashion or ever. It's not that for me. They have their own tastes. Doesn't mean I like the music they listen to. Some of the music they listen to, yeah. And the clothes they're wearing, they're making some mistakes, you know. It's like, eek. But I'm not there to project on every character my own tastes and my own, you know, I'm there to create entities and characters so that they work and they reach out to an audience as in all its diversity. So there are things for everybody here and there. Some people told me, "Oh, I love that dress that she's wearing. Can I buy it?" And I was like, "Are you sure? Are you?" So it's personal. It's not. I wouldn't say that I'm doing these movies about people who have taste or people who are artists. Well, not that the following movies will prove me wrong on that, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting in Laurence when Laurence has the Eluard poem, and then in Heartbeats, I found it interesting when they're comparing to David or the Cocteau drawings. Like, even if it's not something you like personally, like there's a kind of, they're looking at things with that kind of framework of art and comparing things.
Yeah, I do feel the necessity to interweave excerpts or details from either paintings or poems or literature, because all of these art platforms are sometimes so important to me, even perhaps more than cinema itself. And it's important for me to sometimes express feelings or situations with still images, whether photos or whether paintings, or so. It will always be in my my movies, except when the movies are, you know, I don't know, when, like, my last film has nothing to do with what I've done so far. It's visually and artistically, it's very different. It's very it's artistically coy. It's not flamboyant and showy, and it's rather contained and ordinary. It's a psychological thriller taking place in the country, so it can be, you know, you can't chase people in a cornfield on Shakira, because it will be awesome.
Yeah, it sounds Hitchcockian.
You know, it has to be, there's got to be a certain control and constriction? Anyway, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, not all of my movies will have these paintings and all these, but instinctive. I'm not going to say that word. Can you say it for me?
Instinctively?
Yes. I will do these things.
Yeah. What is your relationship to cinema right now? How would you describe your own personal, not to your own films, but just, because I read that you were thinking about making a film about a man's relationship with cinema.
I am not thinking about it.
It's gone? Oh, you are.
I wrote it.
You are. Okay.
And I want to do that next year.
Yeah. So what does that entail, and how does that relate to your own, like, where are you with cinema right now?
Well, I know that most of the times when it happens, it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a matter of time for people who, especially people who come from the exotic, not people from, you know, New York who've been doing, or LA, or people who are in the American business of cinema. I mean, people who are outside of that business have this sort of fascination for the world of cinema, and sometimes their report to this industry is a groupie thing. So the way I look at cinema is very academic in the way I look at it, but not in the way that I want to do it. I'm very impressed with Hollywood and very impressed with with what I've been going through in the past years, like Cannes and the movies, and like I'm 23, and when I started doing this, I was 17. So, and I never went to school, to cinema school, and I have like my high school diploma, and that's about it. That's the only diploma I have, actually. And I did not spend my entire childhood, watching Cries and Whispers and The Seventh Seal. It's really not the education I was given. I was not actually given an education in terms of cinema or arts. It was all done through mainstream culture, and I'm really grateful for this. And so, which brings me to say that a lot of people who come from that background, I guess, a lot of people who come from whether very little means or very little culture, that we're not in the business, have this relationship with telling stories about cinema, and it comes rather soon, because once they're introduced with that business, once they're a part of this world, they're like journalists and reporters, and they, like, that's what I've been doing for the past years of my life, gathering information on how it works and how it's done. And a lot of films that attempted to, well, that's a little pretentious, that wanted to portray this reality did it in very specific ways, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But I think there are so many things to be told about that business. It is so interesting and tragic and beautiful too. The world of entertainment, and and I've heard someone say that at one point, that once you start doing movies, it's only a matter of time before you start doing movies about movies, and that can be really annoying to most of people. Like, I know Hollywood hates films about Hollywood, and most of people are like, oh, okay, so now you want to tell us, you want to show us how it works. Thank you so much. Please educate us. But that's not what I want to do with the movie, and the movie you mentioned that I just wrote.
Cornfield.
No, the Cornfield movie is Thème à la ferme, Thème à la farm. It's a psychological thriller about Stockholm syndrome and lies and death and violence and bullying and Dalida. No, I'm kidding. The movie, you said you knew that I wanted to make a movie about the business. Yeah. So I was talking about the business film, the show business film.
You've got two.
I got what?
Two.
Well, the Time of the Farm has been shot.
Oh.
I edited this fall.
Oh, cool.
It will be ready. It will come out throughout the next year or so. I don't know when. Maybe early next year. Yeah, it's not ready. It's and then the other one, I just finished writing it like yesterday. We're going through revisions and corrections, and then we'll send it to La La Land.
Thank you.
It's over?
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed.
Why?
I don't know. It was fun.